Positive selection is the proliferation and selection of mutations, specifically beneficial. Selection has many forms. There's natural selection, sexual selection, and artificial selection. Each is important to evolution for different reasons. We'll start with natural selection. This is selection that is driven by natural forces, such as the environment, niche, and predation. And here we have Pacificus rodentis back to help us see this natural selection at work. Here we have a handful of individuals from a nearby population that are looking for some lunch. The group divides and one leaves to forage for food on land. We'll call them Group A. And the other half goes to forage in the ocean shallows. We'll call them Group B. Group A combs the beach for small crabs and seeds, but they are not alone. Predators watch from the sky looking for their next meal. And Group B combs the shallow waters nearby. They too have predators lurking just out of sight. We can see that all mice are in danger of being seen, but let's see how their environment contributes to selection. In Group A, we see that we have not lost very many of the light-colored mice. This could be because they are able to hide more easily. But the darker mice seem to have lost a lot more, and this could be because they are having trouble finding cover dark enough to hide them. So in the end, Group A has 5 light mice and 2 dark mice. In Group B, we see the mice in the water have been able to hide among the seagrass, and most of them survived. In the end, there are 5 light mice and 5 dark mice. It seems that both the light and dark mice have equal survival in the water. Even though this darker color mutation seems to cause more fatalities on the beach, it does not have the same effect in the water. So natural selection through predation has shown which of these mutations are able to survive. Now, let's take a look at artificial selection. This has been a somewhat hazy concept up until this point. I knew it occurred through human interaction, but I didn't realize that it also could happen naturally. Artificial selection is the process of selection in which humans and chance events disrupt the allele frequencies of a population leading to a shift. These individuals are usually from a diverse and mixed population. We can see this most evidently in selective breeding for food and animals. Individuals with the desired characteristics are taken and bred together, and then their offspring with the same desirable traits are bred together from there. We can see this most evidently in dogs, as they have been selectively bred for multiple purposes. Some are small and slender and fast to hunt rats, and some have been bred to be big, fluffy, and strong, to help find people who have succumbed to avalanches in the mountains. In food, we have selectively bred for larger cobs of corn, more florets, and pest resistance. Some have even been bred to be sweeter or less spicy as well. If we look at genetic drift, this is another form of artificial selection that is the shift in allele frequencies of a population through random change. These effects are amplified through survival and reproduction, and drift is unbiased and can cause variation in species to be lost. It can be more evident in smaller populations over larger populations. Genetic drift through human interaction can look like humans building on a dock, which results in the death of 2/3 of the mice in the population. The only alleles that are left are that of the white belly and the dark body mice. With these being the only phenotypes to survive the catastrophe and having their habitat permanently altered, the selection factors have changed, and the gene pool has dwindled by more than half. This is known as the bottleneck effect. If we skip ahead a couple of generations, we can see how this affects the population. The mice seem to have completely lost the wild-type coloration, and this can happen when so many of those diverse alleles are lost. The bottleneck effect can also occur if a natural disaster comes through and wipes out part of a population, leaving only a few of the phenotypes. Another example of genetic drift is called the founder effect. This effect occurs when a small number of individuals are removed from the original population and relocated. This can happen through a natural disaster like a hurricane, landslide, or tsunami, but these individuals have no contact with the original population and must use the genes that they have in order to procreate, creating a new population. Now we move on to sexual selection. Sexual selection is the selection that is driven by competition for mates. It is a counterpart to natural selection, as both processes work together to find the most balanced expression of alleles. As we have previously discussed, mutations must be able to be passed on to future offspring to be beneficial. So this is where sexual selection comes in. There are many ways that reproduction can occur. There's the one we know best, which requires a male and a female to fertilize the egg for reproduction. There is asexual reproduction, in which one individual does not need fertilization to begin reproduction. And there is also hermaphroditism, which means that one individual has the necessary means to fertilize and reproduce their own offspring. If we examine asexual reproduction, we can tell that there are many types, but all will result in an exact copy of the parent. This can occur through fission, the dividing of an individual, budding, the growth of new individuals on the parent individual, and we have parthenogenesis, which is essentially cloning of the parent. This is advantageous to many species as they do not need to find a mate, and their offspring will have all the genes they need. So why don't we see more populations of asexual individuals? Well, if the parent or offspring gain a mutation at any point, the future generation will have those mutations. If that mutation is harmful, there is no way for these individuals to get rid of them, and they will inevitably be passed on to their offspring, if they survive. Some species do not have complete asexuality, because after a few generations, they must find a mate to introduce new genetic material. So, why is sexual reproduction the most common? Well, it may take a lot of energy to find a mate, to produce the gametes, and to grow the offspring. Sexual reproduction is more advantageous because genetic recombination can change and remove mutations. This can sometimes occur in one individual that has both the sperm and the egg. This can occur when a species needs reproductive assurance, when there are too few mates to be found, or the individuals are sedentary. This is known as hermaphroditism. Plants have both the male reproductive cell, pollen, and the ovules, which are the female reproductive cells, and these, when fertilized, become seeds. Most often, we see sexual reproduction between two individuals mating, so their two gametes can fuse and fertilize. This leads to competition between mating individuals for the best mates and inadvertently the best genes. The competition for mates can lead to some crazy phenotypic expressions, usually in males, and complicated mating displays. Some males can even take over parental duties for their female counterparts, going so far as to carry the fertilized eggs until they hatch. The physical differences that can be seen between male and females of the same species is called sexual dimorphism. This process can increase depending on female mate selection. If the females of a population like males with brighter colors and larger plumage, this is who they will choose. So over time, we will see that the males will grow to have larger and brighter plumage, even if this makes them more susceptible to predation. All of these processes combine to drive evolution forward and create new and interesting mutations in species. Thank you for joining me on this journey of learning.